Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's from another dimension, a new galaxy, Sweet Sean's a Kovacs from the internet.
Happy birthday, Adam Portress. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it feels like my birthday. I tell you what, boy, oh boy, because today we are talking about Message from Space, a.k.a. Ukadu Karama. I'm not even going to try. It's from 1978. you knew I had to attempt it, but that was just never going to happen. That's A-okay with me. We are in the first of what we are going to call a recurring series, I guess, called Sweet Sean's Loves Spaceships.
Please, I love it.
And,
I do love spaceships.
And there are some spaceships in here in the movie today, the likes of which I don't know that many people have even seen these types of spaceships before. But yeah.
as my father used to say when I was a child, like a commercial for like Empire Strikes Back would come on or something, and he'd be like, "Oh, I bet you want to see that," and then he'd turn to one of my sisters and go, "Sean loves spaceships." Like he would do that all the time.
He loves that dumb crap.
Even with garbage, right? Like, like a commercial for, some terrible rerun of Buck Rogers would come on or something, and he'd be like, "Oh, I bet you'll want to see that one, huh?" Sean loves spaceships. That's
in space, Ain't no oxygen in there. But hey, listen, you wouldn't know that watching this movie this week, but we'll get into that, I'm sure. But before we get into Message from Space, we got to say a big thank you to the people that support the show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. This week's Dinger Zone, we talk about The Flash is coming up, and what's going on with that movie? I don't know, but check it out over there at the Dinger Zone. And if you can't support us over at Patreon, why don't you drop on down to the iTunes, give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
You can also do it for Spotify. You can't write anything, but hey, you can leave a 5-star, or maybe somebody somewhere in some crazy land will go, "Oh, I'm going to subscribe to that show as well." They probably won't, but
let the Scandinavians know what you think of us.
Yeah, exactly. Those people need to. They need to hear this show as well. It's for them as much as it is for you. You're welcome. So thank you to the people that supports Patreon, IMDb, or excuse me, I'm skipping ahead here in the daggum script here. I would normally do a trailer here, but we're trying to stay on YouTube, and that's what I wanted to go to, was youtube.com, and check out Hero Movie Podcast. We are over 10,000 subscribers over there. So if you can't get to this here program, via whatever podcatching thing of sorts, or somebody that might like this podcast, send them over to YouTube, because a lot of people, those guys, they don't have. They go, podcast. What is that? Do I have to go out to the store? No, you just give them a YouTube link. They'll figure it out. That's youtube.com. Just look up Hero Movie Podcast. We're right there, everybody.
Do you remember, Adam, that there was that weird moment in time where people knew about things on the internet, but it scared them? So like brick and mortar stores would show up, which was like, we sell things on eBay.
Oh, yeah.
That. I would love to see a brick and mortar store that just sells tapes and CDs, cassette tapes and CDs of podcasts.
So there are a couple of I don't know if it's specifically Bandcamp or somebody, but there is some company that will press vinyl and stuff for you. And I do know a couple of podcasts that have done specials or whatever, and had them. It's probably ungodly expensive, but have actually pressed shows and stuff on vinyl. And I'm like, something about that's cool. Something about that's awful too, and far too expensive.
I've never listened to a podcast and thought, man, I need to spend $75 on a pressed recording of this.
Yeah, like comedy albums, that's a different sort of thing. But a podcast, it's like I don't really know. So youtube.com is what I was trying to essentially come out to. Well, let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plot line for Message from Space. As we all know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. An embattled planet, which is on the edge of doom, sends an SOS message, and an intergalactic team comes to its rescue. This is directed by Kenji Fukasaku. I had this Fukasaku. Also written by him and Shorleto Isurami. You know what's funny? I do these ahead of time. I sit there before the show, before we connect, and I read them, and you know what? It goes really, really well. Somehow that red light goes on, and all that practice goes right out the old cabeza. It's gone. It's gone.
I know what you
idiot.
mean, man. I know what you mean, man, because sometimes I have to put things down. Man, I can't even think of the word right now.
See?
It's phonetically.
Yeah.
I have to write things out phonetically, especially when it comes to people's names. And occasionally I will go over it a few times to see if I have it. And then showtime. And I'm like mush mouth.
Dab. I put out things phonetically and I just go like, oh no, I should have written that out regular. I made it worse. Like that's how bad it is. Where I look at it, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I should have written the regular word and then have the parentheses with it kind of done out so I could know. Because sometimes you look at it and you're like,
I don't know if I've ever said this to you or on the show. But there's a time where I found out that I have numbers dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I found out was that one day I was at work and I had to transfer a bunch of things and I had to say the numbers out over the phone. So I say the numbers out over the phone as I read them, and the woman says, that's not right. And so I said it to her again. And I said, I'm sorry, I think is there such thing as numbers dyslexia? And the lady said, there is. And baby, you got it.
We normally just call that dyslexia.
But I don't have it for words. It's just for numbers. It's so strange.
It's all that brain scrambling in the 80s you did.
In the 80s?
I don't know.
When I was 7?
Yeah, let me tell you. You don't want to know what he was doing, guys. This is a family program, so we want to keep it appropriate, but the New England area in the 80s was wild.
Oh, boy, don't get me started.
All right, let me sell everybody on this epic Japanese adventure because this sucker's got everything. Is it a 2001 ripoff? Is it is it a Star Wars ripoff? Is it a Battlestars Galactica ripoff? I don't know. It may be all of those things and none of those things, but I do know this. We got a child in a robot suit. We also have grown men in things that are meant to be robot costumes, but instead look like mannequins left by a furnace. We got Space Cop Hair Star Edition. See what I mean? Cagliostro from Spawn shows up. Well, kind of. He's really more of a Clint meets John Wayne kind of a character. We've got the Rough Riders. Oh, no. That's how Rough Riders roll. That's fair use. We got meteor showers with poop debris. Dance numbers, a spaceship that's actually a sea-bearing ship, I guess. I don't know. People who wear plants for crowns. Are these tree people? Who's to say? But don't worry, we got leisure suits, Galactic Asia. I don't know what to call those costumes, but they're scary. We got walnuts or something like that. Space fireflies, because, shut up. That's why. My favorite quote of the entire movie is, they don't call me kamikaze for nothing, which I was like, oh, fun. Do you think you need a spaceship, or a space suit to go into space and just float around out there? Of course not. This is crazy land over here. We got beaten up by a girl, a scene that I swear was James Cameron ripped that off for Terminator 2. And then, just when the movie's getting a tiny little bit boring, boom! Lizard Man, lightsaber whip. We got machine gun blasters that sound like Tech 9 guns, and that's only the first hour. This movie's got everything. We're going to go over all of it. It's bananas.
All right, so we're going to do a C by C breakdown. So before we start the movie, let's think of this thing as kind of a stepping stone to greater things for the director and co-writer of this movie, since it's Kenji Fukasaku, who is best known as the guy who directed Battle Royale. And if you haven't seen it, Battle Royale is kind of like if the Hunger Games had a meaner, hotter, older sister. That's the best way to describe it. It's a far superior movie. we kick the crap out of middle schoolers. That's like almost the best part about it, is that they're all in like 7th grade. Yeah, and they are vicious.
Yeah.
And it is brutal. It's such a brutal movie. All right, so here we go. Cold open to this movie starts in the deep reaches of outer space, and we begin zooming in on the Milky Way galaxy. As the credits roll, we get a mournful French horn and the weepiest of strings as we zoom tighter in at the Milky Way galaxy. And when you think this soundtrack can't get any more moody, whammo! We hit the title card, Message from Space. And we get some chanting, and it's effective and amazing. We start seeing other galaxy clusters as the opening credits continue, which takes a little over 2 minutes, but you don't feel those 2 minutes. We finally land on a planet's surface, and a narrator that sounds like he was recorded through one of those old tabletop tape recorders with the handle on the side begins speaking, and he says, "The planet Telusia, on the verge of death." Now, when I say that we see the surface of the planet Telusia, what I really mean is it's a small model that's roughly the size of a conference table. It looks cool, and there are some rocky formations and a bunch of little ball-shaped buildings when we learn that the people of this planet who have been conquered by invaders from space, those invaders have steel skin, and they're ruthless, and they call themselves the Gavanians. No, the Gavanas. The Gavanas. That's what it is, the Gavanas. We cut. See, I did the same thing that you did.
Yeah, it happens.
Adam.
It's
Don't
the
feel
easiest.
so bad.
Yeah.
So then we cut to a scene where a bunch of people look like they're performing a stage play in front of a painted backdrop of space. And I attempted to get the actual names of all the different groups of people that they're speaking to here. But like I stated earlier, the narrator sounds like he's doing his voiceover through the drive-through speaker of a Hardee's.
There are wild. Okay, let's start here real fast. Did you watch this on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, it's available on YouTube. That's how I watched it. But what I realized, well over halfway through the movie, is it's also available on Tubi.
Oh, and we could have gone.
And it looks a lot better on Tubi as well. Quality-wise, it looks better. Now, this is a hard one to find on Blu-ray and stuff, but we just want to let people know this is on YouTube right now, but a better-looking version, as of this recording, is on Tubi.
And I got to tell you, you do want to see this movie. It is amazing.
Yeah, it is weird. You can't. It's tough to describe what this is and what takes place because, and like I said, as much as it's kind of, it's. I don't want to say cribbing, but there's like so many things that are in common with all of those, like 2001 Star Wars and all that stuff. And this comes out in 78 as opposed to Star Wars 77. But it's so big and massive and other things that you can't sit there and look at it and go, oh, they were specifically trying to do Star Wars or they were specifically trying to do this. This is such an amalgamation of 8 gajillion different things. It felt like they were like, we have everything and we're going to push it all into this movie. There
was so much work to everything for like costumes and sets and things like that, that it feels impossible.
It's maddeningly huge.
That they did it in a year. You know what I mean? Like it feels like they but they had to have, because there's way too much Star Wars in this movie. They had to have.
There's so much Star Wars in it, but like at the same time too, while watching this, part of me went, save for like special effects. If you brought the special effects up to Star Wars level, and there's a reason they won Oscars for that Star Wars. I mean, they were doing amazing stuff. If you put the special effects in this up to those Star Wars levels, this is the movie George Lucas would have rather made.
Oh, without a doubt.
And there's everything he loves. Come on.
And there's a lot of moments too where I'm like, hey, good on you, movie. Like with certain special effects, one in particular, which I'll get to later, where it's like, that is very impressive for the time.
No kidding. There's several things that like, and that is one of the things that you'll see in the movie is a lot of twists and turns as far as quality of things go. Sometimes you're just like, whoa! It's like you'll see some things that are like, that's okay, that's fine, a little cheap, but then you'll turn a corner and you're like, oh, look at that! Wow, that's impressive that they did that for that budget in 77, 78.
Yeah. So back to it. An old Asian man is holding a bunch of walnuts in his hands, and it looks like some sort of religious ceremony when all of a sudden the walnuts start to glow, and even people in the crowd are amazed. He chucks those glowing walnuts out into space, which is where walnuts belong as far as this podcaster is concerned, when the old Asian priest turns to his granddaughter, who also happens to be the hottest lady in this movie. And he says, you must go find those magical walnuts because they are going to find the people who are going to save us from the bad guys. And that's when a very average looking Asian dude says, I'll go with her because she'll need protection. But secretly, he's also planning to shoot a shot because he is super average and he knows he's going to get some alone time with this super hot lady. And that's when we cut to the reason why I wanted to see this movie in the first place. The bad guys. They are amazing. Yeah. The costumes are incredible. The set sort of looks like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in space. And the lead bad guy? Yeah. He looks like somebody showed a 5-year-old Asian kid a picture of Darth Vader and then 3 months later asked that kid to describe him. But he is great. In the first words we hear him speak, there's something wonderful about a storm. He learns that someone's trying to escape. So he goes to his magic projection ball and sees a ship attempting to make its way off planet. And when I say ship, I mean like a seafaring ship with sails and everything. And he knows they're trying to find people to fight with him somehow, but he's got some big D energy and he says, let them try. When out of nowhere, an old lady rolls out on her space handicap scooter and says, you fool, the good guys just sent their magical walnuts through space. Their plan might work. And she gives him the business for a few minutes. And this is where we learn that this feisty old broad is actually the mother of Japanese Darth Vader. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but most people can agree there's nothing scarier than a supervillain that hangs out with his mom all the time. She is always there.
She's in this wheelchair that is like I can only describe it as a Michael Turner wheelchair. If you know that comic book artist, it looks like something he would draw. This organic-y, wild-looking thing that's in a wheelchair.
It looks like it's alive almost, yeah.
It's rad. It is so really cool looking. It almost makes you forget about how bad her fake nose is and everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of craziness. It also feels a little bit when we're in their, like the bad guys layer, it feels a lot like the black hole also to me.
There's exactly. There's a lot of black hole. And again,
but the black hole doesn't even come out until like 2 years later.
I know. This is what's amazing. Like this, I can't explain it, but it's like this movie comes out before all these things, but is also feels like it's influenced by those things, but also feels like it has influenced those things. Like Flash Gordon, this feels like Flash Gordon a million times as well.
Yes,
it is all of these things and none of them. I don't know how it works.
It's so crazy, man. Like this thing is so bonkers. So anyway, we see some great miniatures with spaceships and meteors, and it's exactly what you want to see in a movie like this. When it begins to dawn on you that the people who made this movie have also seen the movie Star Wars, because you have the shot of the evil Gavana ship passing over the camera, you know, that slow movement to show you how big the ship is.
Yep.
And it flies right over the camera.
And it comes out and it's got the blue afterburners in the back. It's like, okay, you saw something from Star Wars. We do know that.
Yes, you've definitely seen some Star Wars. And meanwhile, our heroes are struggling with the ship's wheel. And it's the kind of wheel that you would see on SpongeBob SquarePants that's wooden and it's got all the handles that poke out at the ends, you know?
Yeah, it's your ship wheel and everything that you would see on like an actual honest to God ship. Which when I saw that ship, that was like, all right, this movie is way different than I expected any of it to be, because we're like, all right, we're floating a sail ship through space. Perfect. Why not?
It's just so good. And the Gavana ship starts hammering away at our little seafaring spaceship here. And we get a real OG Star Trek moment when the good guys get attacked and the camera tilts, making the actors pretend their ship has been hit. And they're throwing their bodies like up against walls and stuff like it's the 60s. It's really great. But you know what? Everybody's fine. They make it out alive. And then we cut to a new scene, because the movie isn't already confusing enough, where a lady we've never met before seems to be on the space version of a commercial air flight. And she looks out the window and she asks the captain, "What are those shiny things out there?" And the captain responds, "What, those? Well, those are space fireflies." And this is where the ship gets attacked by two space pirates, who from this point forward, I will be calling the Han Solo brothers.
They absolutely are. Real quick though, in this scene, this is a 2001 rip where
oh yeah where it's like
the commercial flight and everything,
right, it's
coming
commercial
through.
And it's like an everyday routine thing. Like, yes, very much so.
Very
and everything's white.
Yeah, just very cool.
Yeah, it is. It's so great. So the Han Solo brothers, and here's the thing: one is Japanese, and the other is a goofy-looking white guy.
Yeah,
but
I love both of them. They're both great.
I do too, and they're both dressed like Evel Knievel. And whenever they open up their jacket, they've also got Robin Williams rainbow suspenders on there.
Suspenders, brother. It is so great. You're like, what are these costumes? But somehow they just work, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't, but they do.
They do. And even though these two are pirates, you know they're fun because surf music plays as they attempt to rob the space jet. But as they get closer, the Space Patrol shows up to stop the Han Solo brothers. And when I say Space Patrol, I mean a spaceship with a siren light on the hood of the ship that twirls around.
Tell them the other parts.
And the guy in the cockpit is wearing a helmet.
Why is he wearing a helmet and sunglasses?
That looks like he's part of the California Highway Patrol.
It's so good. It's like, why is he doing this? And he's so animated. He's so over the top. It is fantastic. And his ship is constantly getting destroyed.
Always.
You see, like, there's like 5 hits where you'd be like, there's no way. You're dead. You're dead after that hit. And he's still going.
It's so good, man. So the Han Solo brothers play chicken with the Space Patrol. And
real fast. I'm sorry. I want to just the way they drive these ships is awesome. The way they pilot these things around, it's weird and unnecessary for the movement that they're doing, but they have this weird forward shift thing that they kind of do where their bodies kind of go forward. So it's almost like they're using their bodies more to also drive this thing as well. It's just very interesting and unique and different. You don't see anybody doing stuff like that where it's more, it'd just be piloted like a regular ship. This, it feels like they're pushing in and they're moving. Like it's more of a body movement stuff than it is just, pulling back on a throttle.
It's almost like they're pushing the NOS button.
Yeah, like
like to move forward.
Well, like or like the ship, like the ship's arms or whatever. Like you're kind of punching your way through a thing. That's what it kind of, because they're always diving and they're punching like Superman flying on through. That's what it kind of feels like.
So everybody ends up crashing their ships, the Space Patrol and the Han Solo brothers. But the Han Solo brothers are like, how did this happen? Because they couldn't possibly have crashed their ships due to their own negligence. And we see them putting out the fire in both of their ships with fire extinguishers in a scene that goes on for as long as the opening credits to the movie.
It is they
fire extinguisher scene is the longest scene in the entire movie.
And it just goes. It goes. It's the most out of place thing in the world, seeing this old fashioned fire extinguisher put out this crazy spaceship crap, and you're like, what?
And you think it's over, and then they go work on the other ship. It's like it is forever. This is the longest thing you've ever seen. And so when the fires are under control, they look through their ships and both of them find why they crashed, because they both find a magical walnut in the inner workings of their spacecraft. Now, the thing about this movie, and I know we're only 15 minutes in at this point, is that it continues to find new ways to surprise you. For instance, we cut to the next scene where we see a rocket launching, and we learn that a major who looks a lot like the bad coach from the Bad News Bears is using the rocket as a funeral for his old friend and sidekick, who also happens to be a robot. And when this Major's boss learns what's happening. He gets so mad and starts yelling at him over a TV monitor, and he threatens to fire the Major, but the Major stops him and he says, "You don't have to do that. I quit." And just when you think things couldn't possibly get any crazier, the camera pans out to a wide shot, and we see what can only be described as what is very clearly a little person in a very bad robot costume. And in full disclosure, it's at this point that I completely lost my mind, and I am now all the way in. This is a masterpiece of cinema.
Now, I have to challenge a little bit. I don't think this was an actual little person. I think this was a child, on account of, like, the arms are awful long, and I think we're fooled into, because the voice sounds like Tattoo. So I think that kind of warps our brains a little bit to go like, oh, maybe that's a little person. I think that was a child, just because I feel like the arms are too long.
I was looking at the elbows, because you know how little people have a hard time like bending their knees and their elbows. There isn't much movement on the elbows, because the knees are impossible because it's in the stupid suit.
Yeah.
But the elbows also aren't moving very hard. Although I will say you may have a point here, because the actors keep touching the robot like there is a little kid in there.
Yeah, I think there's a little
like
kid
rubbing its head and stuff. So let's say we don't know. Let's say it's a little kid. But man, I didn't see those elbows bending very much, man.
I just think the costume was super thick, because it looks like some of those like tubing and stuff that you have drainage ditches and stuff in, so you can't really bend that too awful much to begin with.
And it is quite honestly the world's worst robot costume on this person. I mean, like, it makes you pine for like Twiggy from Buck Rogers. Where like that robot looks 1,000 times better than Beba 2,
which by the way is what a wildly annoying name.
Beba,
not just Beba 2,
Beba
like
2.
I can't. It kept sounding like Deca 2 or something, like the name of what's his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when Rick Dalton's character in that show, Deca, that's what I just kept hearing when this when this little robot kept saying its name. I'm just like, the one from, okay, cool.
I just keep thinking of all the Foley work that is done on that on the robot, because they keep juicing him with like what I'm sure the movie makers think are hilarious lines, like, it only hurts when I laugh, like stuff like that. Like, it's like, man, you guys, it is just the craziest thing in the world. In
a dub version, I'm happy to hear the dub version, because I think if I saw that written out, it would have been very confusing.
Yes,
just that, like, I can only smile when I laugh. Like, what?
It only hurts when I laugh.
Ha 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 ha.
We cut to Future Disco Space Club. Now, in the writer's room of this movie, clearly someone had a conversation that went like this. We want a scene that reminds viewers of the Space Cantina from Star Wars, but we need to put our own spin on it. So let's make a checklist here. Okay. Disco music that sounds like incidental music that plays throughout an episode of Jabberjaw. Check. Girls in space bikinis dancing really, really poorly? Check. Fat mob guy playing cards and being loud and obnoxious? Check. Man, we are firing on all cylinders today, but something's missing. What if we have the Major who just quit his job drinking at the bar? Okay, that's good. That's good. But you know what? It's not enough. We're trying to make message from space, for God's sake. Why don't we have that little person in the Earth, kid maybe, in the bad robot costume sweat his little ass off by making him dance in the middle of the bar? And another guy in the writers room was like, Dave, the term greatest idea ever gets thrown around a lot, but you just achieved it. And everyone in the room started to uncontrollably weep because all of those things happen in this scene. It is so insane. It is like they are clearly trying to do the space cantina from Star Wars, which is, like a little bit scary when you're a kid when you see it.
Oh yeah.
But the people who make this movie know we don't have the budget to make that scene scary. So what we need to do is make it as insane as humanly possible. So they have a bunch of people, like as many people as they have in this entire movie, in this one room. And it's clearly a club, like an actual working club. So they put a bunch of stuff around to make you think that, oh yeah, this is really futuristic.
It's space stuff. Shut up.
And then in the middle of the room, they have that poor person in the robot costume dancing. And it is the most insane thing you will ever see in your life. It is so funny. Whew.
I did it. I think I may have. I just tried to, like, the actor who played this robot is a little bit kind of hard to find and everything. I think it just may have been a rather small person. Maybe not,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Technically a little person, but like one of those like cusp kind of folks that's like right there on the line.
I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah. You're Jason King, if you will.
Yeah, it's like you're not quite there, but you're not. Yeah, no one would go like, "Oh my goodness, you're a little person," but they would go like, "Boy, you are awful short, though."
Yeah, you are. Are you actually 5 foot?
Yeah, it's like, let's put you up against that mark there and see what we can.
let's put you against my childhood marking system.
You're big when I was 8.
So to get back to it, the Major is drunk and orders another for the the Major is drunk and orders another drink from the bar, and the robot, who we now learned his name is Beba 2, starts giving them crap about drinking too much. But when he gets the drink, guess what's at the bottom of the Major's rocks glass? That's right. It's a magical space walnut. Now, at this point, the fat poker playing mobster starts yelling about money owed to him for some reason. Like, no one actually brings it up. And so he goes to the kitchen where we see the Han Solo brothers who work here as busboys. What is happening? And the fat mobster says to the Han Solo brothers, if you don't give me my money in half an hour, you're both going to end up in quicksand.
Another great, like, quicksand. Where is this coming from?
It's everything about this movie is bananas.
Oh, and that walnut, he finds it in his drink and it glows, which, by the way, really cool effect. Looks really neat, especially in the glass there and everything. And they spend time to kind of look at it a little bit because it does look cool.
They know what they got.
Yeah.
And so the guy who's been working for the fat mobster, who is clearly going to be human C-3PO, gets thrown across the kitchen to show them, the Han Solo brothers, that he means business. And the kitchen at the space disco looks like the most normal looking back kitchen ever. Like everything's stainless steel and everything looks like it's just a working kitchen. And so it is actually probably a working kitchen. And then the guy who gets thrown across the kitchen, this human C-3PO, bites into a tomato. And what does he find inside? Oh, that's right. A magical space walnut again.
Like you do.
Now, what are the odds that there's 4 people find magical space walnuts all in the same space disco? They could have gone anywhere in the universe, and there's 4 people all at the same space disco. Now, why would a guy who's been nothing but a bootlicking lackey get a space walnut? Who am I to judge the choices of a magical space walnut? Moving on.
He didn't flick his wrist enough when he threw the walnuts out so they didn't disperse nearly as much.
Maybe.
He went straight forward, and the second he let it go, you could hear him under his breath just go like, oh, I knew that one wasn't going to be good.
Yeah, not enough English on that. It's like skipping stones.
Okay, so they're all in Burbank. Go find them.
So this lady, who has the craziest facial expressions from earlier, who was learning about the space fireflies, shows up in the same kitchen. That's right. That's right. Yet another person who we saw from earlier. And we learned that this lady with the crazy facial expressions, we learned that she's a rich, privileged girl with lots of money, and that she'll give the guys the money they owe the fat gangster under one condition. She has to help her they have to help her catch space fireflies. And you know what, everyone? I think that this movie might be a little bit like Star Wars. We cut to the deep reaches of cold space where our four heroes are out looking to grab space fireflies. They evade the space patrol.
Hold on. Do you not want to talk about what they are certainly not wearing while they're
we're getting
out?
There, sir.
Okay.
We're getting there, sir, I promise.
Okay.
And the rich girl who, from this point forward, I'm going to call Scary Fisher, says the line, "They don't call me kamikaze for nothing." Your favorite line in the movie,
she's great.
Poitras. And everyone's out in the cold, unforgiving vacuum of space, just hanging out like it's a balmy Kyoto evening. No spacesuits. In this universe, all you need to survive in space is a light jacket.
You're just flying around. There's no helmets. There's no nothing. It is just like there's no umbilical cord that's going back to the... No. We're just flying around in our skivvies, just trying to go, let's see what we can find. Let's...
And they're swimming around in space. And when I say swimming, I mean swimming, because they're moving their arms and kicking their legs like they're at the community Y.
Because when they're in the harnesses, that's all their body just goes back to, is that like, the only thing my body knows how to do is like swim in water when I'm in this weird position. So that's how my limbs are going to react.
There's so many scenes in this movie that if you were to have it playing in the background while you were at a function, people would stop and watch for a few minutes, because the visuals in this movie are so unique that it demands your attention.
Yeah, this is definitely a background. What the hell was that again? Moment that you will see a lot of people having at that party for sure, going like, hold on. What's this guy with a big gray face doing now?
And I know it sounds like we're busting on this movie, really.
No, it's great.
But like, and not only that, it's also really well made. Like you know what's happening with the plot. I mean, as much as you can with a script that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you can follow what everyone's motivations are and stuff. And like the editing is great. It's not difficult to tell where people are relative in the room of where you're at.
And sometimes, especially like in fight scenes and stuff, like you can tell they're a little limited by budget because it's not covered a whole bunch, but at the same time too, that also gives you a good scale of where things are, and like you kind of know you don't get lost in a boatload of cuts a lot of times.
Right. And so back to the story. Han Solo brothers, Scary Fisher, human C-3PO come across the space sailboat from the opening scene as they're out looking for space fireflies. They look around this boat, and when they do, they come across the hot lady and her very average companion, and they both appear to be dead. The Han Solo brothers start marveling at the strange alien technology when, out of nowhere, Japanese Darth Vader and his army start attacking the ship, which wakes up the hot lady and her 5 on his best day companion. The good guys barely escape the old space sailboat as Japanese Darth Vader's army blows it to smithereens. And as they look at the damage, one of the Han Solo brothers says, "The sky is crawling with fuzz," which is one of the top 10 lines of this masterpiece. Everyone gets into an argument for some reason when the hot lady sees that they all have space magical walnuts, and immediately everyone stops fighting. And out from the back room, who should show up? Major Wino and Beba 2 wander out. And we get a flashback to the takeover of her home planet, and there's lasers and swords, but definitely not laser swords.
No.
And there's well over 50 people in this saga, and 2 military jeeps in the scene, and everyone's gathered around and not just hearing what the pretty lady has to say, but listening to what she's saying. Now, we're only at half an hour in this movie so far.
It's nuts.
It is bananas. What and finally we get the refusal to the call of action when Major Wino looks around the room and he says, "These people are a bunch of goofballs," and walks away. And as we're waiting for Major Wino to change his mind and come on back, the movie spins its wheels for a bit, and they go talk to an old lady to see where the other magical space wallets might have gone. And they climb some mountains in one of the worst day for night scenes you'll ever see. But there's a double cross. It turns out that human C3PO and the old lady's son beat up the very average looking guy. And then when son gets back, he takes off his hood, and it turns out the old lady's son is a lizard boy.
That, yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about. There's like, just before then, it feels like the movie's kind of starting to hit a little lull.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden that lizard head comes out and you're like, sweet baby Jane, we are back in business. And the movie don't stop from that point.
She says, the old lady says, people hate my son because he's very ugly.
He looks like the Goran captain from Star Trek. That the green head thing.
He does. He looks like the first version of the Gorn, because now the Gorn are really scary.
Yeah. But at that point I was like, okay, we're back in business here, because that shifted it, and then it doesn't stop. And I was scared because that lull had me like, oh boy, here we go.
Oh no, yeah,
they've run out of stuff already. It's like, you should have, parsed this out over some time. But nope, they're just getting started.
Because it felt like just before the guy takes off his hood and reveals that he's a lizard boy, it felt like maybe the first part of this movie is like crushing the middle of this movie under its own weight of awesomeness. And then when he takes off that hood, you're like, oh, right, this movie's great.
And we're back on.
It's so good, man. And right. So back to it. The old lady says that this pretty lady from the beginning of the movie has to marry her lizard boy son. And at this news, the pretty lady whips out a knife to defend herself, but Lizard Boy takes out a laser whip, which is definitely not like a lightsaber.
No, that one moves, and it's not stiff. Come on.
And just as Lizard Boy is about to whip her with it, a few of Japanese Darth Vader's soldiers bust in and kill Lizard Boy and take both Lizard Boy's mom and the hottest lady in this movie hostage. And then we cut to not just one, but two different dream sequences back to back where everyone's really upset that they disappointed the lady from the beginning of this movie. And this is the moment that I realized that this movie isn't perfect. It's been absolutely perfect right up to the back-to-back dream sequences. But then we get the back-to-back dream sequences. And to the untrained eye, yeah, you don't see the flaws, but there are definite flaws here and there in this movie. Yeah. Now, like for instance, we go back to the bad guys layer, and they kill the old lady they just took hostage by mistake. It is literally a mistake, and they kill her. But some things happen then, and Japanese Darth Vader decides he wants to take over Earth. Like, how did we get from kill old lady to now he's going to try to take over the Earth?
He just saw an image of Earth
of a deer.
Yeah, and he got this family show. He got excited.
He got Earth crazy.
He was just like, hoo, well, my, this Earth here is pretty good looking. Looks like we're going to head on down and take that over.
I don't mean to sound elitist here, but I think Earth might be the best planet.
Hey,
I just think that way.
It's the best one I've been to.
Yeah, me too. But here's the thing, right? Japanese Darth Vader, you think once he says that he wants to take over Earth, your natural thought, because you've seen space movies before, is, oh, he's going to jump on a giant starship and go to Earth. No. No. You have underestimated message from space. What he does instead is he fires off the rockets that they've had implanted in the planet, and he takes the planet itself to Earth's orbit. It is absolutely insane. So he moves into the Milky Way galaxy and tells Earth to surrender, and Earth retaliates by sending 3 of its biggest, baddest warships, and a ship battle occurs. And if you watch old Godzilla movies because you like watching like miniatures get blown up and you like seeing things set on fire, this is totally the movie for you because there's way more miniature like space battles and things blowing up than there is in any Godzilla movie ever made.
Yeah, a lot of flying around in like little
there's like
miniature
10 times
ships.
more, right?
It's astounding how much there is. Like again, like when I tell you, like when this movie started and you thought, oh, it's gonna kind of be low budget, and it is not. They spent a lot of money and a decent amount of time putting all of this crap together, and it shows in all of these scenes. And like, while it may not, like, it doesn't look as good as Star Wars, but the ambition of what they're doing, you just have to marvel at it.
It's pretty incredible. You can feel the sweat equity coming off of the screen.
They're putting in 100% of they may not be up to Star Wars standards, but they're giving 100% of what they've got and putting that on screen.
Yeah, and there's like lots of little spaceships smashing into buildings, lots of fire. It is really, really great. And to get back to it, while it looked like things were pretty even in the space war or Star War, if you will, it turns out that Japanese Darth Vader and his forces won, even though you've been watching the battle. It looks pretty even to me, but it turns out Japanese Darth Vader wins, and they've given Earth 3 days to surrender or be destroyed. So the Earth government makes the best plan that they can think of, and it might be the best plan I've ever seen in a movie. They put all of their hopes and dreams into Major Wino, and they want him to stall the bad guys into giving them some more time. And when we reconnect with Major Wino, guess where they find him? That's right. They find him drunk in a bar, if you can believe it.
What?
It's pretty incredible. We then cut to the Han Solo brothers and Scary Fisher fixing their spaceships in the middle of a desert, just to remind you of Tatooine a little bit. And just when you think things couldn't possibly get any more awesome, human C-3PO shows up and he's driving a frickin' dune buggy. The Han Solo brothers start fighting for some reason. Like, one of them says that he's in love with her, and the other guy gets mad that he says he's in love with him. And look, as I'm trying to make this movie as comprehensive as I can,
it's tough.
But the movie is not making that easy, because then, as the Han Solo brothers are fighting, the bad guys show up in a ship and start shooting at the bad guy, start shooting at the Han Solo brothers. So the Han Solo brothers run to the ship and start flying. But crash land on Mars, I think that's supposed to be. And
that's how fast this goes, everybody. Because
they really is.
They get into a fight that's literally just like, you like that girl, nuh-uh, and then they start.
I don't. And
they start wrestling.
And it's like a 4-minute long fight. So like you start getting like, okay, we get it. They're fighting, and then the bad guys show up and start trying to shoot them. Like it's so rapid fire crazy. And while they're on Mars, they run into a guy who is the disgraced prince of the bad guys. And it turns out that the bad guys used to not be bad, but Japanese Darth Vader took over. And so this guy hid on Mars. And the prince, who I really would not have cared about at all, but it seems like the movie knows that. Except this disgraced prince is played by none other than Sonny Chiba.
And you're like, wait a minute, what now? What now movie?
Sonny Chiba is in this movie. Why is he here? Why did he say yes to this?
Sonny Chiba and Vic Morrow in Message from Space. You're like,
it's so crazy. It is so crazy that Sonny Chiba is in this movie. And it makes you instantly like this disgraced prince. So like you're like, oh, this is the most interesting character in this movie now because it's Sonny Chiba. But like I have said previously, it is getting more and more difficult to follow along with this movie because get ready for this. It turns out that Sonny Chiba also has a magical space walnut.
Who doesn't? In this story, who doesn't?
It is so crazy that we've still got 40 minutes left of this movie. What started as a really fun movie has turned into something confusing, but still really fun. But it's also super confusing. So Major Wino shows up to the bad guy's base and meets with Japanese Darth Vader. And Japanese Darth Vader, because they've caught human C-3PO, they give Major Wino back human C-3PO, who is a sniveling coward and grovels at Major Wino's feet. And the Imperial Guard starts laughing at him, which angers General Wino. And he challenges one of the Japanese Darth Vader's guards to a duel, a pistol fight.
Which is wild. I love how they set up all the rules proper about how, like, because we got laser guns, and in the world of laser guns, well, we've seen you can shoot laser guns a billion times. You're not running out of bullets per se, but they crib it here. They're like, each of you only has one charge, so there's only one shot in this gun and stuff. They laid it out nicely.
And they're supposed to take 10 paces, turn and fire, but wouldn't you know it, the guard turns around before the 10 paces are up and shoots at Major Wino, but only hit him in the arm. Major Wino takes the last 2 paces he's supposed to take and turns around and just very slowly and steady aims his laser pistol at the guard who cheated. And this is when the guard starts groveling. And Major Wino, this is how you know he's a good man, decides not to shoot him. Doesn't shoot him. Yeah. And the guard is instantly then killed by Japanese Darth Vader instead. And Japanese Darth Vader is talking about honor and orders the other guards to throw this disgraced guard out into the trash.
I love how much he was just like, you know what? This guy's garbage. He's trash. I'm going to shoot him. He shot him like a billion times.
Yeah, it was like 4 times.
He kept shooting him, and he's just like, get this piece of garbage out of here. And they just got him out. I was just like, you know what? I kind of respect this guy. He's just like, listen, you're not going to be cheating over here. We follow the rules.
Now, keep in mind, what I am about to bring up next happens in the span of like 15 seconds, right? where Major Wino turns around, slowly shoots the guard. Then Japanese Darth Vader shoots him multiple times and tells his guards to throw him into the trash. And then what I'm about to say next, this is all in the span of 15 seconds this happens. Major Wino then tells Japanese Darth Vader that Earth needs more time. So Japanese Darth Vader decides to blow up the moon instead, which he then does.
But the best part is like how he also just goes like, he's like, listen, we need we need just a couple more days so we can Earth can just kind of get its affairs in order. We'll turn it all over to you. Just give us a second. And he goes, yeah, what do you think? I'm a moron or something? Give you a couple more days to get up your offensive? We're gonna blow up the moon instead.
It is. And literally after the moon blows up, there's nothing terrible happens after the moon.
Yeah, there should be typhoons destroyed and all kinds of crazy stuff. The Earth should be off whack in some way, shape, or form with no moon around, because there's just that's part of our thing.
It's crazy. Again, I know that I've said that word maybe 17 times during the review of this. Like you have to grip the arms of your seat because it's moving so fast, this movie. It's so bananas. Yeah. And it keeps shocking you in ways that you're like, well, that's got to be all the ideas this movie has. Nope. More craziness coming up. And we're going to get the craziest part of this movie. The craziest part of this movie is towards the end. To give you an example of how crazy everything is in this movie. Now, because Japanese Darth Vader gets mad, or because Japanese Darth Vader blows up the moon, this makes Major Wino very upset. So he comes up with a plan that I don't really understand, but it involves with him going to Telusia, which is the planet that Japanese Darth Vader is currently on. Meanwhile, the Han brothers, the Han Solo brothers, Scary Fisher and Sonny Chiba, have the exact same idea. They want to get back onto Telusia, but they know that the bad guys are waiting for them. So they come up with the most simple plan they can think of. They're going to connect all 3 of their ships together, then dive for the planet, separate all three ships, making it look like the ship has been torn apart, and then all three ships dive into a canyon and rejoin into each other, making it one ship again, but making it look like that the ship has crashed into the surface. See? Simple.
These guys are like way more crazy and gung-ho than Han Solo, Luke Skywalker ever were. They're insane. They are just like ready at the drop of a hat to do something that's very likely to get anybody killed. And they're just like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. It's going to be rad. And you're like, what? Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go and dive right in there. Who gives a crap? And they're just like, they're insane.
So they safely land on the surface of Telusia. And this is when all of our heroes from all of the different scenes of this movie all join up. They're all on Telusia, and they come up with a plan. The plan, they're going to blow up Telusia. But how? Major Wino turns to the group, and he says, let me ask everyone this. Have you seen the movie Star Wars? and they're all like, yeah, we're familiar with it. So they've all decided that they're going to do a Star Wars. The canyon run, the torpedo down the 10-meter wide shaft, the whole thing.
Oh, there's even a bit in this, and we'll get to, it's a little later, but when they're flying through with whatever these weird corridors are that the ship is actually going through, that feels so Jedi to me. When they were flying through, they're flying through the half constructed Death Star, it feels
the Millennium
just
Falcon's flipping around.
Yeah, doesn't
it
feels like they took that and put that in Jedi.
Man, it's so crazy. But but there's one problem, right? There's only one problem with their plan. What are they going to do with all the innocent people who live on Telusia? Well, they decide that they're going to put them all on a giant space sailboat and get them off planet in time. And everybody loves this idea.
We say that, but they, not to skip ahead a little bit here, but didn't feel like they planned this out too well, because by the time that everything's going to hell, they're like, let's get them on the boat. And you're like, shouldn't you have done this ahead of time?
Way ahead of time. There's only one person who isn't super happy with this plan. And that person is the average dude who is traveling with the hottest lady in this movie from the beginning of the movie. He's the only one who doesn't love this plan. Anyway, that won't come up later. Don't even worry about it.
It's fine.
So then Beba 2, the quote robot, end quote, finds the 7th magical space walnut, and there's only one left to be found, and our heroes are about to talk about it when they get discovered by Japanese Darth Vader's forces and get taken prisoner. Again, this all happens in the span of like a minute and a half.
When the robot finds it, it is like Tiny Tim at the end of the movie.
It is.
He's picking, like he even mentions, like, it may even be like half a scene before about how like a robot can't have this or whatever it is. And then he picks up, he's just like, look at me, I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy.
And everybody's congratulating them like they just found out this robot has a soul.
So, right, exactly. There's a little Pinocchio allegory in there for sure. So we go back to Japanese Darth Vader's base, and this is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the best special effect in the entire movie, because it happens here. And it's sort of like the chamber scene in The Force Awakens when Kylo Ren and General Hux speak to Supreme Leader Snoke, but he's, like a 30-foot tall projection.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that with Japanese Darth Vader, only this movie is 40 years older than Episode 7.
And it looks good for like...
It looks great.
For what it is and being... like, honestly, it looks better than the projections in 77 Star Wars. I said it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It really does. So Japanese Darth Vader
and the
says...
the perspective is on when he's looking down at the small things of like he is looking directly to the people that he's addressing in that stuff. So dope.
He's looking the right way. There's also not the thing that Star Wars had to do in the first movie where, like the projections of that are all messed up.
Yeah, this is
like
clear.
They barely have a signal.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they fix their own problem. Is like, oh, it should look like there's barely a signal because we can't really do this well. And so they very smartly are like, oh, it should seem like we're getting a bad signal here, which is totally the way to do it. And they were really great at the time at their jobs. And then everybody and then it just became the George show and everything turned to crap.
Yeah.
But anyway, Japanese Darth Vader says that he knows the good guy's every move because there's a traitor in their midst. And that's when the traitor reveals himself. And it's none other than the average guy who wanted to mac on the hot girl from the beginning of the movie. And he's mad because they want to blow up his planet. And who can blame him? Because all his stuff is there. And he gets shot immediately. And then a laser fight breaks out. And when I say a laser fight breaks out, I mean full on, like, cast of hundreds. Everyone starts shooting at everyone.
There are so many lasers. Like, I can't remember if this was that scene, but no, it was earlier in the film. But there are a couple of scenes in here, especially with like how the sound effects works and the just massive stuff that's going on. I'm telling you, James Cameron saw it for sure and said,
without a doubt,
I'm putting this in Terminator 2, 100%, because it's just like there's
without
so many
a doubt.
of it. It's like so very close. It's wild.
And Sonny Chiba, who does not have a laser pistol, takes out a sword, and he takes out no less than a dozen guards with it. As the Han Solo brothers and Scary Fisher make their way back to their spaceship that we'll just call, for immediacy's sake, we'll call it the Millennium Cobra, because it's like another spaceship that we've seen before, complete with gun turret and 4-person cockpit. And
it's like, oh, it's shut up.
And Major Wino and the people of Tolusia take back their sailing spaceship, and we finally get the fight we wanted. Japanese Darth Vader versus Sonny Chiba. And this is by far, and it's not even close, the craziest thing you'll see in a very long time. This is the craziest death I have ever seen in a movie, ever. Because not only does Sonny Chiba win the sword fight, but he stabs Japanese Darth Vader through the heart, then pushes him out of a window where he catches on fire as he gets pushed through the window, falls 10 stories to his death, and when he lands on the ground, being smushed, he explodes in front of his own mother.
Like you do.
It is so insane, man.
There's so many neat shots when like people are getting hit and stuff and all the fighting that, like, I don't know what to even call it, but like it goes all digitally kind of, and like their bodies just kind of jack up and everything. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's so interesting and neat because like no one's doing any of that. I can't explain it.
It's a weird thing where like I said that he's on fire, but it's more like his existence is starting to flitter away, kind of a thing.
In a digitally kind of way.
Yeah,
sort of, which is like bizarre because like what ability of that do they know in 1978 of like, stuff glitching up like that? Thinking about that, that's kind of weird.
But dude doesn't just get stabbed through the heart. Doesn't just get thrown out of a 10-story window, but then explodes in front of his own mother.
Wheelchair mama.
It is absolutely the craziest death I've seen in a movie in forever. Actually, ever. This is the craziest death I've ever seen. But we're not done yet, because the Han Solo brothers and Scary Fisher realize that they still got to do a Star Wars.
Yeah.
And they decide that now is the perfect time to do a Star Wars. So they make the trench run, fighting off Japanese Darth Vader spaceships along the way. They shut off. It looks
so good. Why? Because like it's still like it's on the cusp because it's a little corny and it's a little low budge. But oh my God, it's good. It shouldn't be that good. It shouldn't. It just shouldn't. But it is.
If they had the money,
Oh,
it would have been perfect, but they did not.
yeah, if they could have took John Dykstra and the crew and like put guns at him and said, "You make this better," and like they'd have done it, and it would have been like a bajillion times even better. But what we got though, it is like, how did they do this? And like again, so fast that this is behind Star Wars and stuff, but is so wildly influenced that it and then influential then on further things is again just astounding.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean, they even get to the point where, during the trench run, like it's damn near shot for shot.
They literally, they're like, "Oh, we have an opening this wide to shoot in until things blow up," and you're like, "Okay, come on."
I'm fully waiting for one of the Han Solo brothers to shut off his targeting computer, and have an old man start whispering to him in his ear. But like that doesn't
Sonny
happen.
Chiba just pops in and just goes, "Use the Schwartz," and you're like, "All right, cool."
So they shoot the torpedo at the 10-meter shoot, hit it, blow everything to hell. All the good guys get safely off the planet, except the old priest from the beginning of the movie, who in a weird scene we see die by falling into the core of the exploding planet. Like he literally falls over into the planet. It's crazy. All our heroes decide that they want to go find a new planet to colonize as they sail their space sailing ship into the universal sunset. And as they do so, that sexy saxophone kicks in. The end.
It is kind of like I like the ending where they're just like, "Hey, you and I ought to get together and just, I don't really know you, you don't really know me, but maybe we ought to, repopulate the world together or something like that." Like, is that's the vibe that we get from them on like going to their little off on their little trip and everything of like, "Hey, what do you think you and me just sail off in the sunset together and make a whole bunch of space babies? What do you think?"
And then the rest of the crew is kind of like, "Hey, we learned something today."
And then a bunch of like, so yeah, he's trying to mac on this girl and be like, "Hey, listen, babe, I think if you and me get together, we can restart society and build this world into a lovely place." And then everyone comes and goes, "Hey, I want to come along." For God's sake,
man. Shut up, Scary Fisher.
I am trying to repopulate the system, if you know what I'm saying. Take a hike.
Man.
Now we got an email in from our buddy Alex.
Oh, nice.
And it's entitled "Message from Space." Alex writes, "Thank you. This obscure movie is why I listen to HMP. I never heard of this movie until Sean mentioned it, and it will become a movie that I make everyone watch when they come visit. I hope the show continues this direction. I get excited every Monday knowing a new Dinger Zone and HMP are waiting. Listening to you guys is like catching up with old friends around the water cooler. Keep up the good work, Alex, a.k.a. Brass Knuckles."
Man, thanks, Alex.
And that was, like you said, you got some like messages and stuff on Twitter and other things of people just kind of going like, "I'd never heard of this before," and it's wowed you, and it did me as well. I didn't realize that I had heard of this previously. I didn't know too much about it. I just knew that like, a couple of, if you knew about this movie, you really like the movie, but not a whole bunch of folks do. And I hope that this gets folks to check it out. Like I said, it's available on YouTube right now, so it'll probably still be there. Available on Tubi, but looks even better on Tubi.
I wish I would have known that. I would have much preferred watching this on Tubi then, because as much as I love YouTube and I do love it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna like if I would have known that I could have gotten subtitles, if I could have seen a better quality version, because this is in like I couldn't even tell you, is it 3? It's in like 360.
Yeah,
the version that we're watching.
Yeah,
like it's just awful.
If it was 480i, it'd be 1080p. You know what I'm saying? It does not look great, but color wise and clarity wise looks a little better on Tubi, which makes me actually gonna watch this again. And now that I kind of know what I'm getting into and what this movie is, I think I may enjoy it even more so because A, there's so much going on, and B, it's just. it's wild and it's different because it's so many times you're seeing so much of the things that both that happened before and after this, oddly, but while you're watching it. So, like, in weird ways, it's kind of distracting in that sense of you're just like, oh, I can see all the influences and stuff like that. And so I definitely want to go back and watch again. Now, normally, this is the point in the program where we ask ourselves how this epic Star Wars ripoff, which isn't a ripoff movie but kind of is, relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone. But it's been a heck of a week here at HMP. I'm to understand Sean has no prepared statement.
I don't. I did not have the time to make.
But you heard the breakdown. The man was busy putting together the whole show, so you understand what amazing wackiness this is. Here's the only thing that I can think of as far as like what could be a Stallone connection, like what I would like to have seen if the world played out in the perfect way that I would like to see. We are about to get yet a fourth Expendables movie for some unknown reason. It's coming out, but you know who I would have liked to see in an Expendables movie would have been Sonny Chiba. If there's anybody who could have slipped into any role in those Expendables movie, that's the guy who could have. He could have played a good guy. He could have played an amazing bad guy. Boy, oh boy! If Sonny Chiba was in an Expendables movie, that'd be worth the price of admission right there. I would, having even not seen Expendables 3, I would go watch Expendables 4 if Sonny Chiba was in it.
It's true. If he had actual like real. Like old star power in these movies, which has become less and less so as the series has moved on. Yeah. If he got that level of like, oh hey, let's get somebody from Taiwan, let's get somebody from France, let's get somebody like action stars from other countries. That would have been amazing. Like Korean.
Yeah, like Jean Reno shows up or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be amazing.
But the problem is that you've got to have a good script for Jean Reno to sign on to it these days, because he's a lot more picky these days.
He's like, I've got my money. I got a small little villa in the south of France or something. I don't need to be messing with none of y'all. So if you want me, you need something good.
It's true.
But you can only get that if you go a little bit above what Stallone wants to pay you right now.
That's also true.
Like, listen, he's fresh on a divorce. He's got to save pennies where he can. You know what I'm saying?
Man, even the first one when he was still married, it's almost like After Effects what they're using for the gunshot scenes and stuff, and it's just really bad.
That's what took me out of the last John Wick movie. Is I'm sitting there watching, I'm just like, no one's shooting any of these guns. Like, it just kind of felt fake and flat to me. Speaking of unflat, this movie, let's get down to it. Let's hit our Robin rating system. Sean, what do you rate Message from Space on our Robin rating system?
Man, this movie is the reason why I do this podcast. I mean, this is a Dick Grayson. This is one of the most fun things I've ever watched and put my eyes on. And me just describing things makes me laugh out loud at how just bonkers the whole thing is. It's just an amazing movie. It's a Dick Grayson for me.
I'm going Tim Drake only because I want to watch it again.
I thought you were going to say because of the back-to-back dream sequences.
No, I'm fine with dream sequences. I like them looking down in the pool of like, here's where Earth is. Here's all the things. That's another kind of great sci-fi fantasy trope thingy. The only reason is because I feel just like I'm more prepared to see this movie again, and I do. And the YouTube, while it's acceptable. If by the time you're hearing this and Tubi it's not available on Tubi and YouTube's the only way to do it, it's acceptable. It's fine. But I really want to see the movie. And I'm to understand that there's a I tried to look it up because I thought maybe AGFA or somebody would have it. But I'm to understand there's a 35 millimeter print of this that you can get and bring into theaters that looks immaculate from what I'm told.
Wow.
So that is how I would love to see this movie one day, knowing that that's out there and that somehow that's a while minute a possibility, gets me a little bit excited. And somebody that I know that's like, not a big to do or anything has gotten this movie in 35 millimeter in a theater and stuff. So it's not undoable to do this, but super fun. I really like it. But yeah, the only reason that I'm rating it at Tim Drake is because I believe I'm going to like it more upon second viewing with a better picture and B, a better understanding of the wackiness and craziness that I'm going into. Because, and here's the thing, like you said, you've watched it, at least like 2 times now, kind of combined with all the, going back and forth with stuff. But I feel like there is so much in this that you're going to miss that first viewing through. That you're going to need to see more.
It's impossible not to. There's
so much going on. The story is bizarre and wacky and all over the place that you're going to go like, oh, I missed this part for the first time, or oh, look at this interesting thing that I was looking at over on the other side. This thing's more interesting now. It's one of those types of movies. Like I said, it's unavailable on Blu-ray. That's how popular it was because it just ran out of print at some point. So it's like $180 or something if you want to get it on Blu-ray. So don't do that one. Go over to the Tubies there or YouTube. That's it, everybody. A good long episode here, but a good reason for that episode when you got something like a message from space. But next week, we're going to be talking about the new Wes Anderson movie, Asteroid City. Sean and I are big Wes Anderson fans and stuff, so we're going to talk about all of that. And boy, oh boy, I don't know how he does it. I guess because he is who he is at this point, but any and everybody is in every Wes Anderson movie now, and
everyone works for scale. I mean, that's how he's able to do it. There's no way you're getting the actors that he has for anything else.
And that's scale. How you know that somebody's worth kind of going and checking out when everybody just when you have all of these giant stars that just go like, not only will I do this. These people are all repeat offenders with this guy. They keep coming back. So they dig the atmosphere. They dig the stuff. And frankly, I dig the movies that are coming out of it. So we're going to be talking about Asteroid City next week. In the meantime, Sean, where can find more of your work on the internet?
We've got a show called 30 Questions where it's either Marvel or Star Wars or some nerdy property. Check that out. However you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, we got Secret Invasion coming up and not too awful long.
We do.
I'm interested because I remember that was the last kind of big event that I read.
Oh yeah, me too. That was the last thing. You're right.
Yeah, that's the last time I was just like, oh, okay, here's a little something going on, and we got a lot of those books and stuff, and then eventually we're like, oh, it's the same thing that we've been doing in comics for the last 40 years. Well, what the hell, Yeah. You live and you learn, I suppose. But we'll be talking about all that stuff. So go check out all of those 30 Questions shows available wherever you find finer podcasts. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. For Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet and the absent Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Amy.